Johnny Mathis really hated Frank Sinatra more than anybody. Okay, listen up. Johnny Mathis was born on September 30th, 1935, in Gilmer, Texas, and grew up in San Francisco, California. He was the fourth kid out of 7. His dad, Clem Mathis, saw right away that his son had crazy music talent and became his biggest cheerleader. He even built a little stage in their backyard so Johnny could sing for the neighbors and friends. That early push started everything for a career that lasted over 60 years and made him one of the most successful romantic singers ever. Johnny didn't just blow up overnight. It took real talent, hard work, and never giving up. While he was going to San Francisco State College, he was a killer athlete and an awesome high jumper. He even got invited to try out for the U.S. Olympics. But life had different plans. Some big shot from Columbia Records heard him sing at a local club and signed him in 1956, pulling him away from sports and straight into music that would make millions fall in love. His first songs mixed jazz, pop, and soul, and that made him stand out from everybody else. In 1957, Mathis dropped Wonderful, Wonderful, and It's Not For Me to Say. They became instant classics and kicked off his climb to the top. His first album of love songs, Johnny's Greatest Hits in 1958, made history because it was the very first greatest hits album ever, something that later became totally normal in music. That album stayed on the Billboard Top 200 chart for a crazy 490 weeks in a row, almost 10 whole years, and locked him in as a total legend. After that, Mathis's smooth orchestras and warm, heart-melting voice made him one of the most loved singers of the whole 20th century. All through the 1960s and 1970s, Mathis kept owning the charts with hits like Chances Are, The 12th of Never, Misty, A Certain Smile, and Gina. Work, being with top producers like Percy Faith and Nelson Riddle, turned his songs into pure art. Every song felt classy and super personal, and his shows basically became the definition of romance. Whether he was on TV variety shows or big concert halls, Johnny Mathis was pure grace and style, and he became a name every family knew for generations. His career went way past just pop. The guy could sing anything: show tunes, Brazilian bossa nova, jazz classics, Christmas songs, even team-ups with newer artists. His Christmas albums especially became must-plays every holiday, filling houses with cozy, nostalgic vibes. Even now, his versions of When a Child is Born and It's Beginning to Look a Lot Like Christmas are still everybody's favorites at Christmas time. For everything he did, Johnny Mathis got tons of awards: Grammy nominations, the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, and a spot in the Grammy Hall of Fame. He sold over 350 million records all around the world. That's how huge he was everywhere. More than awards, tons of artists say he inspired them. Pop singers, jazz people, everybody loved his perfect technique and deep feelings. Offstage, Mathis is famous for being humble, super kind, and pretty quiet. Even with all the fame, he stayed real. Family, friends, and doing the right thing always mattered more than being a celebrity. He's talked openly about who he is and how long it took him to accept himself, and people respect him so much for being honest and brave. Even in his late 80s, Mathis kept touring and recording, proving that real passion never gets old. His voice was still rich and totally recognizable, touching people who grew up with him and new fans just finding him. Our guy Johnny Mathis, the timeless king with that velvet voice that shaped whole generations of love songs, kept charming crowds deep into the 21st century. While a lot of sing, Airs his age quit the stage. Mathis stayed hooked on performing live, taking his love for music anywhere people could hear him. Starting in 2000, he finally slowed down a bit, went from a packed schedule to only about 50 to 60 shows a year, which was still wild for someone who'd been doing it forever. What made Mathis different in a time when everyone uses tracks and backing tapes was that he stayed 100% real. Unlike most stars today, he still traveled with his own full orchestra instead of a tiny band, so every single note sounded big, live, and exactly like his classic style. Mathis concerts weren't just shows. They were fancy, funny, nostalgic nights. In his later years, he brought comedians Gary Mule Deer and Brad Upton on stage, and their hilarious stand-up broke up his singing sets perfectly. Mixing laughs and songs made it feel like you were hanging out in Mathis's living room for the coziest night ever. Fans flew in from everywhere to see him, just to hear a living legend who'd been killing it for 7 decades without ever losing his magic. But in March 2025, a super sad announcement came. On March 26th, they said Johnny Mathis would stop touring in May 2025 because of age and memory problems. Fans were heartbroken, but also so thankful for everything since the 1950s. Like always, Mathis stayed a total pro and promised to finish every single show he still had booked, treating fans and everyone with the same class he always had. He did every last concert with so much love and humbleness, turning them into beautiful goodbyes. In a big 2017 interview with CBS News Sunday Morning, the legend Johnny Mathis finally talked about something people had whispered about for years: his sexuality. With the same calm, real sweetness he always sang with, Mathis said yes, he's gay, and he opened up about how growing up and life shaped who he is. "I come from San Francisco," he said with a smile, talking about how chill his city was. "It's not weird to be gay in San Francisco. I've had some we're all friends, some boyfriends, just like most people, but I never got married. I always knew I was gay." It was a rare, super open moment from a guy who always kept a little mystery and quiet class his whole career. For years, Mathis kept his private life totally separate, just letting his perfect voice and huge love songs speak for him. When he finally decided to talk, it hit millions of fans who grew up on Chances Are and Misty and never knew the personal stuff behind that smooth voice. Mathis coming out wasn't just him being real. It was a huge statement about being yourself, having guts, and how hard it was for older stars to be accepted. Way back then, being openly gay in showbiz could end your whole career. Just rumors could ruin you. Yet here was Johnny Mathis, one of the longest-lasting voices in American music, calmly owning who he was in front of everyone. After the CBS interview, Mathis kept talking to magazines like People and Others, saying how different the world is now from when he started in the 1950s. His honesty let us peek into the private side of a guy who always seemed a little mysterious, and it just made fans love him more. In a world that wanted everyone to fit in, Mathis's truth showed quiet strength and finally accepting yourself. Even the classiest stars have their own long roads to being okay with who they are. For years, Johnny Mathis has been called one of the smoothest, gentlest voices in American music, a guy whose whole image was class, elegance, and soft romance. But behind that perfect front, there were a few moments of real anger, and nothing was more shocking than how he felt about Frank Sinatra. Even though they were doing music at the same time, both loved by millions and called two of the greatest voices ever, Mathis once straight up said he had zero warm feelings for Sinatra. "I truly hated him," Mathis admitted in a upper honest interview. "There was something about how he treated people, especially other singers, that just got under my skin. He acted like nobody could touch him, and maybe nobody could, but I hated that cocky attitude." Frank Sinatra was already a giant when Johnny Mathis showed up in the mid-1950s. Everyone knew Sinatra's rep. Total genius, but also scary temper, mob ties, and he could make or destroy your career with one call. Mathis was the total opposite. Young, sweet, pure heart. His love songs like Chances Are, Misty, and It's Not For Me to Say were soft and open in a way Sinatra's tough guy vibe never was. He didn't like guys who seemed too perfect, Mathis remembered. He thought that clean image was fake. But I wasn't faking. That's really me. I never drank, never smoked, never hung with the Rat Pack. That bugged him for some reason. They ran into each other a lot. Award shows, TV specials, studios. But Mathis never forgot their first meeting. He looked me up and down and said, "So you're the kid everyone's talking about," Mathis said. It wasn't nice, it felt like a threat. I knew right then he didn't like me, so I decided I didn't like him either. Mathis said Sinatra mixed charm with danger. He could be nice if he felt like it, Mathis remembered, but it always felt like you'd owe him later. He wanted people in his debt. I didn't want to owe him anything. Over the years, it went from dislike to straight-up hate. Sinatra's world, smoky bars, whiskey, late-night power moves, was everything Mathis stayed away from. I wasn't one of his guys, so I was an outsider, Mathis said. He'd tease me, take little shots at how I sang, say stuff like, "Hey, Johnny, when you gonna sing like a man?" He thought soft and sweet meant weak. But my music wasn't weak. It was real feelings. There's a difference. Mathis could grab a whole crowd with just a whisper, while Sinatra did that big swagger. It wasn't just style. It was totally different values. Frank lived like a king and wanted everyone to bow. Mathis once said, "That was never me. I didn't need his crew to feel good about my success." Sinatra got respect through fear and power, while Mathis quietly built one of the longest careers ever, selling over 350 million records and keeping fans forever. "I think he hated that I didn't need his okay," Mathis said. A lot of people in the business needed Frank's friendship. I didn't. Maybe that's why he didn't like me. And maybe that's why I didn't like him. When they got older, things calmed down a little, but never really went away. "We never became friends," Mathis said. "There was always that wall between us. Maybe we were just too different. He was power. I was peace." Still, even when he was honest, Mathis never trashed Sinatra's talent. "I respected what he could do," he said. "The guy had a gift, no denying it. I just couldn't stand the person behind it." For fans who thought all the old-school singers were buddies, Mathis's real talk showed the rivalries and bad blood from that golden era. Under the tuxedos and perfect songs, there were real feelings, jealousy, pride, straight-up dislike. "People think all stars love each other," Mathis said. "Nope. Sometimes the hardest ones to like are the ones who show you exactly what you never want to turn into." In the end, Johnny Mathis never needed Sinatra's thumbs up to prove he was great. His voice, his honesty, and his quiet class said way more than any beef ever could. But his words about Sinatra are still a big reminder. Even among legends, you don't automatically respect everybody, and once it's gone, it's usually gone for good.